Chavit Singson arrested over cyber libel. Naku po! Yan na nga ba sinasabi ko? Siguro hindi ko na ho kailangang ipakilala sa inyo kung sino papanoorin natin dito sa video na to. Sa kauna-una ang pagkakataon, magsasalita na ho itong si Franco Mabanta. Pero bago yan, sa like at sa subscribe, masaya na ho tayo dyan at sa mga gusto sumali sa ating community, yung join button nandyan lang ho sa baba. Ito, panoorin ho natin. A love letter to Ferdinand Martin Romualdez. Naku, yari na naman to si Martin dito. Okay. Naku, meron pang ganung ek-ek. Meron pang, ito, palakpakan din kita dito. Sa mga nagsasabing DDS, hindi DDS yan ha. Inawin ko lang, hindi DDS yan. Siguro, ang pagbanat kay Martin Romualdez ngayong mga panahon na to, yun ang tamang gawin. Kasi, yun ang tamang gawin at yun ang dapat gawin ngayong mga panahon na to. Kasi alam naman ho ng bawat isang Pilipino kung sino talaga ang mastermind dito sa mga maanumalyang flood control project na to. At kung sakaling ito si Franco Mabanta ay napuputol ang usapin ng flood control kay Martin Romualdez, may problema rin ho tayo dito sa mama na to. Kaya wag ho kayo masyadong magpabola. Kumbaga dito araw ng Webis ngayon, madaling araw, ay wala ho kayong wala kayong pumapanood. Sabay-sabay ho natin panoorin itong pagsasalita na to ni Franco Mabanta. Pagdating siya, delivery, accent, mahuhusay yung mga yan. Di naman magiging PGMN niya kung di mahusay yan, di ba? Okay?
Well, don't stop. Okay, first and foremost, let's set the tone for the statement in the free speech spirit from which PGMN was built.
Game.
Ready? Zoom in. Closer.
Talaga naman. Yan ang sinasabi ko eh. Yan ang sinasabi. Zoom in. Closer.
On behalf of my family, on behalf of everyone at PGMN, and on behalf of the entire Philippines, fuck Martin Romualdez.
Sinasabi ko sa'yo.
Secondly, as is the case for all honest anti-Romualdez posts on social media these days, this PGMN episode will be hit by a big troll farm again. Locked profiles with no posts, no friends, no pictures, accounts all created last week. Why? Because Martin is finally in real trouble with the ombudsman and wants to make sure that anyone who speaks out against him now will be attacked by a call center of hateful ogres. But we know you're not naive. You were not born yesterday. You know to look at the substance of the content itself rather than the haha reactions and hateful comments from empty accounts with no profiles, remembering what the actual point of this whole thing is. What is the point of this whole thing? It's that the biggest problem in the Philippines is and has always been corruption. And the most corrupt politician of the 21st century is Martin Romualdez. We'll discuss this thoroughly later in this video, so stay till the end. For now, let it be known that he's relentlessly trying to silence us. He's trying to silence PGMN. Don't let him silence you.
Teka lang may breaking news lang tayo. Sandali lang, Franco ito ho mga kababayan, meron hong breaking news. Galing Inquirer.net ho ito mga kababayan. Ito ho, gaano ba katotoo ito? Chavit Singson arrested over cyber libel. Naku po! Yan na nga ba sinasabi ko? Isa kasi sa mga talagang maingay ito sa issue ng mga maanumalyang flood control. Yan ho talaga mangyayari dyan. Ano nangyari sa 18 Marine? Walang humpay, kaliwat kanan ng kaso mula kay Louis, mula kay pangalan to, kay Abante. Etong sino pa? Yung mga kinasuhan, yung mga ng kaso sa mga mga 18 Marine talaga namang sunod-sunod ho ang pagsasampa ng kaso. Kaya mainit ho talaga ngayong mga panahon na to. Hindi ho pa iintulutan ng mga nasa kapangyarihan na talagang lumabas na talaga ang katotohanan dito sa... Actually, nasa labas na eh. Hindi ko ba alam kung bakit tayo nila lumabas. Kailan ba tayo lalabas? Pambihira
Thirdly, before we talk about Romualdez and the case, I want to talk about PGMN.
Yan.
I built Peanut Gallery Media Network for a specific reason. you were silenced by every major social media platform, especially Facebook and Twitter. That era was hideously authoritarian. 3 or 4 dozen very young, very weak, tyrannical nerds in Silicon Valley sat behind their computers, massaging their flaccid egos, arrogantly thinking that they had the moral authority to determine what billions of people around the world were allowed to say out loud. It was disgusting. Mainstream social platforms became so aggressively woke that not only could you not give your honest political opinion, you couldn't even crack a joke. It was a terrible time for freedom of speech. Then, in 2022, as I got out of rehab to finally get sober after being a cocaine addict for almost 20 years, the great Elon Musk bought Twitter, turned it into X, and instantaneously altered political discourse around the world. For the first time in years, people could finally speak freely again without any fear or apprehension of dictatorial woke snowflakes pressing a button to throttle their reach, shadow ban their accounts, or erase them entirely. Moments after his revolutionary purchase, I vividly remember Elon in an interview say this.
Like say, when does free speech matter most? It's when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. That's when it actually matters.
Free speech only matters when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. He looked like a man who was willing to die for that idea. That deeply inspired me. It's a quote I'll never forget. And so, 2 years later, I created PGMN. Before we were framed for extortion and the whole thing became a national story, we had 25 anchors in total. 5 anchors were Proudly Pink, 4 anchors lean DDS, 6 anchors were MAGA, 7 were center-left liberals, 1 anchor is even super woke. The rest don't give a shit about politics. All of us work together well, at least before the scandal blew up in my face. We're self-aware of our biases and we don't hide them from anyone. Most importantly, we all get along like a family because we've discovered that even if our politics oftentimes don't align, the unifying denominator is that we've found a common home in the idea of being able to always speak freely about anything, literally anything, even when we're wrong, even when we're foolish, in so long as we're communicating in good faith. As quite a few of you know, I've been operating at the highest level of national politics and leading some of the most influential national machineries in media for quite a while now. And I can say with an unwavering certainty that we've built something that isn't just uncommon, it's extremely unique. We've also said repeatedly on all our channels that we are not avoiding conflict. We are actively seeking intelligent, articulate, authentic, amazing people with differing political views and opinions. This is precisely and entirely what PGMN is all about. This is why PGMN was created. This is what we hope PGMN will always be. Moreover, it needs to be said that our anchors are independent. They have never been under contract. They are not on a monthly PGMN payroll. They are not employees. They are not assigned stories they do not want to do. They are not told what positions to take. They keep full editorial control over their own segments, their own opinions, and their own publishing cadence. Each anchor, upon engaging PGMN, was promised one thing: a platform to say whatever they want in whichever way they want, in so long as what they say is legal and honest. Literally free speech absolutism. They have no routine schedules, no quotas to hit in terms of content output, no standard newsroom deliverables, and the freedom to come to work quite literally whenever they want. In return, our anchors receive 2 things: the highest quality of video content excellence and guaranteed virality. 18 months later, we hit 1 billion views collectively across all platforms. We have undeniably impacted culture. We have consistently influenced government legislation. We have gotten multiple corrupt officials to resign, and we have literally altered election results. At our current pace, we will easily hit 2 billion views in the next 6 months. That is how PGMN was able to achieve anything between 1/3 to 1/4 of the monthly social media engagement of many of the big legacy media companies that have been around for decades at less than 1%.
Ano ba? Binibenta mo ba PGMN? Ano ba talaga, Brad? Diretso mo na kasi. Pambihira naman eh. Marami na.
Of their monthly OPEX and by boosting less than 2% of all of our posts. That is not a recent recharacterization. That is how PGMN was built from the start, with that specific strategy in mind. And it worked. I built PGMN this way deliberately. The kind of journalism and commentary this country needs: sharp, fearless, accountable, and we will prove in court that we understand what being accountable means. cannot be produced by anchors taking orders from a corporate assignment desk. It can only be produced by real industry experts who chose off their own free will to publish on a platform that gives them the production infrastructure and the audience reach to do their work at scale. What PGMN provides, the studios, the world-class editing, the strategies, the cutting-edge AI native production stack, the multi-platform distribution system, the rabid, faithful audience, a network infrastructure design unprecedented in Philippine media, and the best young social media team the country has ever produced. What our anchors provide, their voice, their judgment, their reporting, their varied specializations, their reputation, their decisions about what is worth covering and what is not, their expertise, and their excellence. There are a lot of things you can criticize us for. Yes, we may have been mean at times. We may have been too anti-woke. We may have been perhaps a bit rude to the haters in our comments. And maybe, and this is just in terms of the editorial, not the videos of the anchors themselves, but maybe we made the strategic decision to never criticize Bongbong Marcos, Sara Duterte, or Leni Robredo. But do you know what PGMN has never done? PGMN has never lied. I challenge the haters in our comments to find in our 18 to 19 months that we've been publishing, to find any piece of content wherein you can prove that we maliciously lied about anything. Yeah, we made mistakes for sure, and we've happily and I think consistently corrected any of those mistakes, all of them, I think. But we've never maliciously lied. We never outright went out of our way to lie about anything. And I think the supermajority of the people who follow us can attest to that. The people who follow us, especially the people who are assessing in good faith, they know what's up. Fourth, regarding this whole alleged extortion case, there's nothing I want more than to tell you my side of the story. Nothing. I don't think it's possible to comprehensively explain how painful it is to know you're innocent, to have in your hands and your lawyer's hands all the tangible, indisputable evidence that will prove your innocence, and yet to have to muster the daily strength and restraint to withhold all legal information. Right now, I don't have the emotional or the psychological luxury to care whether you believe me or not. I'm just saying that holding my tongue in this moment and under these circumstances is easily one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. The very first thing the good judge said at our first court appearance is that because of the tremendous public interest in this case, to not discuss any elements of the case publicly. I fully intend on respecting her wishes. What I can say is that so far, by every conceivable metric, and I mean this sincerely, is that in my opinion, the judge has come across as fair and honest. And because of that, I am confident we will win. Fifth and lastly, let's talk about Martin Romualdez.
Yan, kay Martin Romualdez
Why is
tayo.
Romualdez?
Yung dapat siguraduhin yung yan ha. Di pwedeng si Martin Romualdez lang kasi pag PGM sinasabi niyo hanggang kay Martin Romualdez lang tayo. Nako, malabo yan. Mahihirapan tayo dyan. Baka imbis na makuha nyo simpatsya ng ating mga kababayan, lalo lang masolidify yung mga aligasyon sa inyo. Kasi pag naputol tayo kay Martin Romualdez, malaki problema natin dito.
Romualdez doing this? That I can tell you. The former speaker is in the most precarious and unstable position of his life. He feels desperate and unsafe because he is finally in real legal danger. Let me explain. 6 weeks ago, the country was set ablaze with this one headline. Zaldico arrested in the Czech Republic. He was set to be shipped back home to the Philippines. What did Romualdez do? Do you remember? He panicked. He tried to leave the country. He said he had to go to Singapore for his heart condition. He was going to run like a little bitch. The Office of the Ombudsman courageously and correctly blocked his flight. Boying Romualdez's exact words, accurately translated. I tried to say this in Tagalog, but I couldn't. It's very difficult for me to read in Filipino. But anyway, this is the exact English translation. Open quote. We did not respond favorably to the request that he be allowed to leave. The problem is that it is too extreme of a coincidence that Zaldico was captured and then suddenly Martin Romualdez intends to leave the Philippines. If this sort of behavior is continually allowed, we may lose all the people we're meant to hold on to. All the people who are meant to be made accountable or answerable will escape our jurisdiction. We too have to take care of our rights as a nation. We have a right as Filipinos to tell Martin Romualdez, you cannot leave. And what did Martin do? He panicked again. He did something he never does. He sat in front of a camera just like this and issued a statement. He said, in so many words, I know things about this administration. If I go down, you go down. That's essentially what he said. Now, what has made Martin Romualdez so desperately anxious? There's a lot of things. Apart from his overabundance of powerful enemies wanting to expose his superabundance of crimes, in my opinion, there are two main reasons, and these two reasons are both facts. The first reason is that the First family hates Martin Romualdez. They hate him. I know that many of you in the comments are skeptical of this. There's quite a number of you that think this is all for show, that this is all a ruse, and that the president won't actually go after his cousin. I understand why you think that, but I have it on good authority. I know people who are very close to the president on a personal level. I know people who work at the office of the president, and I know people who work with him on a daily basis on a political level. They all tell me that this resentment is absolutely real. Why? Because they all feel like Martin betrayed them. As a fun side note, I have heard from multiple people that work under him or have worked under him that the richest man in the country, my hero, Enrique Razon, the $14 billion
Nasabi ko sa iyo, may hero. Palakpakan natin ang hero niya. Enrique Razon, palakpakan natin. Pambihira, oo.
man
Aray mo.
also thinks that Martin deserves to go to jail. One, because, it's the right thing to do. And number two, it's because it's one of the ways to appease the national political climate. I think he's right. Now, I don't know for certain if this is true, but the sources that I heard this from, who said this directly to me, are very close to Mr. Razon. So I believe him. Second reason, and possibly the most important one, is that the ombudsman, Boying Remulla, who used to be very close to Martin, they're fraternity brothers, and they used to go on vacation together, that sort of thing, they're not okay anymore. They had a falling out. I asked two senators, sitting senators, who were both godfathers of mine at my wedding 2 months ago, to introduce me to Boying, and they both initially hesitated because of the fact that they told me that Boying was very close to Martin, and that might not be a good idea. But upon further investigation from people who work at the DOJ and the Office of the Ombudsman and at the Office of the President in Malacanang, they're all telling me that the feud is real. Boying and Martin are no longer friends. They're not cool anymore. So much so that the prevailing rumor is that Martin is having Boying's movements monitored at the moment. That's why Martin is spooked. That's why, for the first time in the last 3.5 years, the once all-powerful Martin Romualdez is legitimately spooked. Just last May 21, in a radio interview, Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano, who seems to be a really cool guy, said Romualdez's money laundering complaint had already reached the preliminary investigation stage. Clavano accurately called Romualdez the master plunderer. He said that on record. Boying Remulla earlier said the ombudsman was preparing plunder cases against Romualdez in connection with the unbelievable flood control anomalies. The complaints against Romualdez include plunder, direct bribery, indirect bribery, money laundering, and violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Prosecutors are saying with their chests that Romualdez is the purported mastermind of a kickback scheme tied to ghost flood control projects with alleged kickbacks.
Parang di ko ata nagugustuhan kung saan papunta nitong pagsasalita na to ni itong si Boy. Ito si Franco Mabanta. Ngayon ang Malacanang galit kay Martin Romualdez. Ngayon ang mastermind dito sa kickback scheme na to, naka-imbento si Martin. Wala talaga. O sinong amo ni Amena Pangandaman? Si Martin Romualdez. Hindi, yahan muna natin. PH, masyado ka nang mamadali. Okay, tuloy natin.
Reaching approximately 56 billion pesos. The pressure is no longer just political. The Court of Appeals has issued a freeze order covering assets linked to Romualdez, including 25 bank accounts and 10 insurance policies under his name. The order also covered additional bank accounts, insurance policies, an investment account, property accounts, and real estate assets linked to an alleged business associate and a corporate entity. Not enough, in my opinion, because we all know Martin is the kind of guy that hides most of his money under a mattress. And as I mentioned earlier, the Sandigan Bayan also issued a precautionary whole departure order against Romualdez after the ombudsman said it found probable cause that he might leave the country to evade arrest and prosecution. That means the former speaker is now facing 3 layers of legal pressure: covered assets frozen, foreign travel restricted, and a money laundering complaint already under preliminary investigation. Romualdez has denied wrongdoing out of desperation and insists that there is no evidence that proves he committed plunder, conspiracy to commit plunder, or any similar offense. But with the ombudsman probe advancing, his camp is no longer only fighting the allegations. It is also fighting the public weight of a nationwide call to finally hold him accountable for his heinous sins against an entire generation of Filipinos. A call, it seems, that the Office of the Ombudsman intends to heed and honor. Because remember, people literally died because of Martin's corruption. Piecing all that together, at least in my mind, I think that the First Family, specifically President Marcos, is genuine in terms of finally making sure that Martin meets justice for these 4 reasons. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's personal. I think that the resentment and the hate is real because the First Family, they feel that Martin betrayed them, and he did. Number 2, it's strategic. I don't see...
Ang masasabi ko lang ho dito, yarin lamang ang English ng English tong mama na to. Bullshit. Palakpakan. Dito ho tayo kay ma'am Kay Ma'am Cora ho tayo. Wag mo kami bulahin, Franco Mabanta, lang niya ka. Kahit hindi tayo nakakaintindi ng English, alam ko na binobola ako ng mama na yon. Huwag kayong maniwala dyan. Wisit na Franco na yan. Ano yan? Malaki bagahin yan. Malaki bagahin ng mama na yan. Dito tayo kay Pulso ng Bayan. Kay Ma'am Cora.
Opo, ma'am, bilang isang ekonomista, alam natin na marami po kayong mga pahayag kaugnay po dito. Lalo na po, kilala din po kayong kritiko ng administrasyon ngayon dahil nga sa lagay ng ating ekonomiya sa ating bansa. Sa ngayon ba, para lang bigyan natin ng ideya ang ating mga kababayan, kumusta po ang ating ekonomiya sa ating bansa?
Well, lumabas na yung mga inflation tsaka unemployment numbers. Ito yung mga indikasyon na talagang mahina pa rin talaga ang ating ekonomiya. Noong una yung inflation ay 6.8% pa rin, napakataas pa rin yan. At saka yung unemployment natin, 4.7% na mas mataas kaysa nung isang taon. Pero ang mas nakakabahala yung underemployment. Yan yung mga trabaho naman pero mababa sa minimum wage ang kinikita niya kasi ang trabaho nila hindi naman 8 oras, no. So, yan ay tumaas ng napakataas niyan, 15.2% at ang katumbas niyan ay 7.1 million ang mga taong hindi kumikita ng sapat, no. So, kung i-add mo yan dun sa 2.1 million na walang trabaho, so mga 11 million ang mga Pilipino na medyo mahirapan talaga ngayon na mataas ang presyo ng mga bilihin.
Opo, underemployed, mas marami, mas tumaas yan sabi po ninyo. Pero ang trabaho ho ba, nadagdagan ho ba sa ngayon? Pero ang problema, yung underemployed ay tumaas din.
Hindi masyadong nadagdagan yung trabaho. Pero yung underemployed, ang tingin ko dito, maraming nakahanap ng trabaho pero contractual. Alam mo yun? Kaya underemployed sila eh. Kasi ang ibig sabihin ng underemployed, kailangan parang gusto nila mas madagdagan yung oras ng trabaho o kaya magkaroon sila ng dagdag na trabaho, yung second job, no? Or magkaroon ng ibang trabaho na may mas mahabang oras. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng underemployed. So malamang contractual to or kaya nanghihinay na yung yung kumpanya, so binabawasan na yung oras ng trabaho nila. Ang maganda dito kasi kung contractual sila, hindi sila nakakatanggap ng benepisyo ng SSS, PhilHealth, tsaka Pag-ibig, ganyan. Kasi hindi yan naibibigay ng kumpanya kung saan sila nagtatrabaho.
Opo, paano po yun? Anong magiging implikasyon po nun kung kapag napipilitan po silang tumanggap ng mga trabaho ng mababang sahod din at the same time. Ito mga nasa underemployment, ma'am.
Ang mangyayari dyan, parang sangkahig santo ka, di ba? Kasi kung mababa pa sa minimum wage yung kinikita nila, ibig sabihin talagang masasagad sila ngayon dahil tumaas nga yung mga presyo ng bilihin. So, kumbaga kung kailangan pa nila ng ibang klaseng panggastos, kunwari kung may magkasakit, o kaya may pangangailangan sa eskwelahan yung mga anak nila, mahirapan silang punuin yun kasi sagad na yan eh. Masasagad talaga sila.
Mas na halos kapantay na ba natin yung sitwasyon natin ngayon noong nakaraang pandemya?
Yung underemployment halos pareho na yung level nung lockdown. So hindi na maganda talaga yung nakikita kong mga numero na lumalabas ngayon. So ang kabuuan nito, yung pinaka-consumer spending ng mga Pilipino, bababa yan. Sa ngayon, yun na lang ang tumataas pagdating sa mga components ng GDP mo, yung household spending na lang ang sumusuporta dyan. Dahil nga meron pang pumapasok na OFW remittances. Pero kung ganito, na wala masyadong makuhang disenteng trabaho, hindi naman sa hindi disente, pero kulang sa oras. So ibig sabihin, contractual sila, ganyan. Talagang manghihina kasi yung mga kumpanya, umaasa rin yan sa binibili ng mga households, di ba? So kung mahina yung spending mo, mahina rin ang sales. So mahina ang kikitain ng mga kumpanya. Pag mahina ang kikitain ng kumpanya, mababa ang tax revenues ng gobyerno. So apektado lahat yan eh. So pati ang gobyerno, apektado.
Opo. At marami din ho ba, tumataas din ho ba yung bilang ng mga natatanggal sa trabaho? May mga indikasyon ho ba kayong nakikita na yung mga negosyo ay nagtitipid na lang? Or para makatipid ay nagbabawas ng tao at or minsan naman ay nagtatanggal ng mga empleyado?
Dito mo nga makikita sa underemployed yan kasi biglang tumaas talaga 15.2%, galing yan sa 13.2. So diyan mo makikita na talagang naghihina na yung employment sector mo, yung job availability, So maaaring yung mga kumpanya nga ay nagtitipid na, kaya binabawasan na nila yung oras ng pagtatrabaho. Siguro, imbis na 5 days, baka 3 days o 4 days na lang ang trabaho ng mga arawan na nagsisweldo, Tsaka yung mga construction, di ba maraming tumigil na construction dahil dyan sa flood control issue na yan, So maraming dating nagtatrabaho sa construction, ngayon, kung hindi nawalan ng trabaho, maaaring konti na lang or less days o konting araw ang tinatrabaho nila.
Opo. Kung magpapatuloy po ito, ma'am, itong trend na ganito na bumababa siya sa mga susunod na mga buwan, ano kaya maaring maging epekto naman ito sa antas ng kahirapan ng ating bansa?
So patuloy manghihina yung ekonomiya natin. So kung
Grabe,
ganito
nakakaano,
nangyayari,
nakakalungkot.
lalo na sa mga kumpanya, dahil sila yung talagang nag-employ sa mga tao, sila nagbibigay ng trabaho, mahihirapan talaga. So, kumbaga yung mga negosyante, baka mabawasan pa yan. So, hindi pa yata nare-reflect dito yung mga bagong graduates or mga fresh graduates. O maaaring nandito na, pero ganun nga, contractual yung nakuha nilang trabaho. Kasi yung graduation, Abril, so, itong buwan na to, yung dapat na-reflect na yung dyan. Pero lalaki pa yan sa Mayo. Kasi siyempre mas maraming papasok sa labor force. Pero kung mahina ang negosyo, mahihirapan sila maghanap ng trabaho. So tignan natin kasi ang Mayo seasonally high din yan pagdating sa unemployment.
Apo, bago ko lang ipasa kay Partner Admar, sa nakikita ho ninyo ngayon, sapat ho ba yung mga programa, polisiya o dapat magdagdagan ng gobyerno para po maibsan ito? Ano ba mga dapat gawin ng gobyerno para at least man lang mapababa yung unemployment or underemployment na rate po dito sa ating bansa?
Ay nga, Di ba, ilang beses ko nang sinabi talaga na, alam mo, ang gobyerno dapat, buwasan na nila yung corruption nila at saka yung pamumulitika kasi kailangan mag-focus sila talaga
Kaya
sa
nga.
pagbibigay ng trabaho. Which means, ituloy nila yung mga malalaking proyekto na dapat ituloy sa infrastructure kasi yan ang nagbibigay ng maraming trabaho. So, kaso wala kang naririnig na bidding, na binibid na projects, no? If ever, tinutuloy lang nila yung mga maintenance, mga repair works. So, dati nang meron yon. Ang kailangan talaga ng Pilipino, yung mga bagong proyekto para mabigyan talaga ng trabaho, hindi ayuda. Kasi ang ayuda, panandalian lang yan, 1, 2 buwan, maibsa ng iyong pangangailangan, pero hindi pang matagalan. Ang trabaho ay pang matagalan yan. So, ang kailangan talagang gawin ng ating pamahalaan ay magbigay ng trabaho.
Ma'am Cora, magandang umaga po. Si Admar po ito. Ma'am, itong nakalipas, natalakay dyan po sa Korte Suprema. Nagkaroon po ng oral arguments dito nga po sa kinikwestiyon o kontrobersyal na 2024 to 2026 budget. Marami pong mga detalye, mga questionabling detalye na nabulgar po dito. No? Sa mga ganito pong usapin na nakukwestiyon yung atin pong pambansang budget, makapaghihina po ba ito lalo na sa mga kakayahan po ng ating bansa na makipag-ugnayan sa ibang bansa para magkaroon tayo ng mga tinatawag ng mga foreign assisted projects?
Parang sinisigil na yung gobyerno natin na tapusin yung mga proyekto. No? So, ibig sabihin, nababahala na rin yung ibang bansa sa nangyayari. At saka, di ba, last year pa, yung sabi ng South Korea, hindi na sila magpapautang yata. Yun yung nakita ko. So, affected talaga ang hindi lang yung mga bilateral talks, no, or multilateral negotiations, affected rin yung mga foreign investors mismo. Kaya bagsak ang investments. Last year pa, bumagsak na yan ng malaki. So, wala tayong masyado maasahan na bagong mamumuhunan dito sa Pilipinas. Kaya nga ganyan nanghihina talaga yung labor sector. Yung, so, maraming walang trabaho at maraming may trabaho pero kulang sa oras.
Opo, kamakailan lang pumunta sa Japan ang Pangulo at may ipinagmalaki na mga investment pledges. Karaniwan po ba, ma'am? Kailan po nagaganap ang pangako ng isang foreign entity, ibang bansa na maglagak ng puhunan, halimbawa dito po sa Pilipinas? Mga ilang taon po ang aantayin at yung possibility pa, matutuloy ba yan? Ilang porsyento yung matutuloy, ilang porsyento yung hindi matutuloy? Ma'am?
Dapat nga, kung nag-pledge ngayon, dapat within the next 6 months mag-umpisa na yan. Pero marami akong naririnig na napakabagal ng registration, yung mga permits, no? Kasi lalo na kung buong Pilipinas yung gusto nilang cover doon sa kanilang negosyo, kada LGU, kakausapin nila, hingi sila ng permit, iba-ibang polisiya, kada LGU, at yung madalas pa, hiningihan pa sila ng padulas, So, yan ang hindi natin nasisiguro kung talagang matutuloy ang mga proyektong yan or investments na yan kasi depende sa pagbigay ng mga permiso at saka registration sa mga businesses. Maraming na-frustrate na at dati ginamit ko na example nga yung Francisco Motors, no? Sa frustration nila punta na sa China. Meron pang iba, marami pa ako naririnig at mga kausap kong mga nagnenegosyo na nahihirapan talaga sila kumuha ng mga permits.
Opo, at itong panibago na namang crisis po, lalo na sa mundo ng politika sa bansa, itong sigalot dyan sa Senado, for sure, bad impression din ito sa mata ng mga foreign investors.
Talagang signal yan na yung mahina ang leadership. Kasi kung malakas ang leadership, hindi magkakaroon ng ganyang division sa Senate. So, nanggagaling yung leadership na yan sa Malacanang mismo kasi pati sila sumasaw-saw sila dun sa gulo sa Senado kasi may ini-endorse silang tawag dito yung kampo Tapos meron naman silang ayaw sundin ang kampo, yung gano'n. So, imbis na pag-usapin niya, sabihin nila doon sa dalawang kampo, mag-usap kayo, magkaisa kayo, nag-ano pa siya, nag-endorso siya ng isang kampo.
Opo.
So, yun ang hindi maganda kasi divisive yung ating gobyerno ngayon.
Opo. Ma'am, kung pag-uusapan natin ng ekonomiya sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, alin po yung mas mabilis or makakatulong ng malaki sa atin? Tulong mula outside sa bansa natin, no? Yung ugnayan natin sa ibang mga bansa. Sila po ba yung mga driver sa ating ekonomiya or sa domestic na needed talaga or sadyang meron tayong problema sa loob at labas natin na mga pamamaraan para nga makatulong sa paglago ng ating ekonomiya?
Ang main driver talaga is the government kasi sa kanila yung sa kanila manggagaling yung mga polisiya para first makabigay ng trabaho, no, kaya kailangan sila gumawa ng mga proyekto. And second, kailangan ma-restore yung tiwala, maibalik ang tiwala kasi hanggat walang tiwala ang mga namumuhunan, hindi sila pupunta dito. Paano i-restore yung tiwala? Itigil na nila ang corruption. Kasi yung corruption, yan ang nagiging cause na magduda yung mga namumuhunan. Ano? At ikalawa, yung fiscal sector, yung fiscal discipline, kailangan maibalik din yan. Ano? Kasi nga, hanggang ngayon, hindi tayo sigurado kung talagang pumupunta sa mga proyekto at sa serbisyo para sa mga tao, yung mga ginagastos. Kaya, laki-laki na ng utang ng gobyerno ngayon, ano, na pumapatak na yan sa 18.5 trillion at tumataas yan ng 1.5 trillion kada taon.
Opo. Ma'am, dito naman po sa inflation, bago pa man inilabas yung actual na inflation natin, ito nakalipas na buwan, may pagtaya ang BSP. May forecast sila either mula 7.1 hanggang 7.9 ang kanilang tansya for May 2026. Pero mas mababa po dito sa kanilang forecast ang naging inflation. 6.8 po yung naging inflation. Ano po yung masasabi niyo po ukol dito na hindi nagtugma? Ganito rin po ba yung forecast ninyo na mas mataas sana?
Oo, actually, tinitingnan ko nga 8 to 10%. Pero yun nga kaya medyo nagdududa na rin ako sa mga numero na ilalabas ngayon kasi parang minamasahin ng konti. Kaya palapit na ang zona eh. So, hindi ko alam kung... kasi ang katotohanan, makikita mo naman sa palengke,
Correct.
sa mga supermarkets na tumataas talaga yung presyo.
Correct.
Nang hindi na...
Kaya love na love ko tong si Ma'am Cora eh. Kaya love na love ko yan si Ma'am Cora Gidote kasi talagang ano yan, wala siyang sugar coating, di ba?
Katumbas nung nakikita mo sa inflation namin. In any case, 6.8 is still very high. Kasi dapat nasa 1.5 to 2% lang ang akyat ng ng presyo ng mga bilihin. Pero yun nga, nagkaroon tayo ng krisis sa langis at saka napabayaan ng gobyerno yung presyo ng langis, no? Kasi hindi nila monitor tsaka kulang nga sa polisiya para magkaroon tayo ng karagdagang supply ng gasolina.
Opo. Ayan, siguro, Ma'am Cora, mensahe po ninyo sa lahat ng
Mensahe,
ating
mensahe
mga
kayo.
kababayan. Alam po natin, nasa gitna po tayo ng maraming kontrobersya. Itong Blue Ribbon Committee nga, di ba? Patuloy pong iniimbestigahan nga itong flood control anomaly. Pero hindi pa natin alam kung kailan pa masusundan, gaano kahalaga ito. At sa marami pa na mga issues na ating bayan, particular na po sa epekto nitong ekonomiya.
Kailangan rin talaga, bantayan rin natin yung nangyayari sa Blue Ribbon Committee ni Senator Cayetano kasi dyan talaga lumalabas yung mga katotohanan. Kung mapapansin niyo doon sa ginawang Senate Blue Ribbon Committee meeting ni Tulfo, Senator Tulfo, wala namang nangyari doon sa hearing ngayon. So kasi pinipigilan nga nila na lumabas ang katotohanan. So napaka-importante nun. Bantayan natin yan at humingi tayo ng accountability sa ating gobyerno. Ikalawa, maghanda pa rin tayo kasi may krisis na tayo sa ekonomiya, hindi lang talaga nangihina, kumbaga may krisis na tayo. Tapos parating na nga itong mga bagyo. So, dadami na naman ang masasalanta ng malalang baha, no? Kasi wala nang nangyaring mga flood control projects. Imbes ay naging ghost projects at binulsa ng ibang kawatan yung mga dapat na gamitin para sa mga proyektong yun. So kailangan maghanda tayo kasi dadami pa yung mga sakuna. Nauna na nga itong earthquake, ano? So hindi rin naasahan yan. At syempre lindol talaga hindi may naasahan yan. Pero yung mga bagyo, maaasahan natin na dadating at dadating yan.
Alright. Ma'am Cora, maraming
Palakpakan natin. Ito si Ma'am Cora Guidote. Palakpakan natin. Idolo. Maraming salamat po mga kababayan. Mag-ingat po kayo lahat. Huwag kayong magpapabudol sa mga bangag, sa mga nagsasalita naman sa social media. Nako, sabihin ko sa inyo, ito lang, simple lang. Pagka ang itong issue ng mga maanomalyang flood control napuputol sa mga ibang individual at hindi ito nagdedire-diretso, magtanong na ho kayo. Hindi pwedeng kay Martin Romualdez lang to. Ito sinasabi ko sa inyo mga kababayan. Pagkatapos nung happy-happy nila noong mga panahon na yon, talagang kapit-bisig sila. Mayat maya, meron silang meeting dyan sa House of Representatives, Sandro Marcos, Martin Romualdez. Noong talagang kulang na lang, maghalikan yung mga yan eh. Mayat maya, nasa Malacanang sila. Nagkakamayan. Ngayon, galit na ang first family dito kay Martin Romualdez. Huwag nyo kaming lukuhin. Matagal na kaming mulat. Mulat na kami. Ayun, salamat, mag-ingat ko kay lahat. Yan sila yung problema. Yan ang problema. Para dito kay Boy, usapin mo yung yung hero mo. Si Rason. Ang bihira, oo. Brad, wag ganon. Wala akong galit dyan sa mama na yan. Pero pagka linuloko nyo na usapan, dyan tayo magkakaproblema. Walang problema ba natin yung si Martin Romualdez? Pero wag niyo sasabihin na kesyo, ganito na ngayon, ganito naratibo, ganito. Mga loko-loko. Maraming salamat, mag-ingat ko kayo lahat. Mahal natin Pilipinas. Ang buwisit na to.